Hi, everyone. We had some interesting breaking news this morning coming from Sony that they are ending physical game disc production in January of 2028. So, a little over a year and a half from now, you will no longer be able to go into a store and buy a game for your PlayStation console. That's really bad news for the consumer. I've been playing games on the PlayStation since the 90s, at least 30 years. And it's always been important to have the game that you want, the physical copy in your hand. Just as with this game here that's playing, one of my favorite fighters on the original PlayStation, Gundam Battle Assault 2. Great game. But the point being, I own this game. It's mine. Sure, someone could steal it from me, but I have ownership of this game. And with a console transitioning to digital-only games, that removes your rights as the consumer to have a physical copy, an archive essentially, of the game when it was released. Sure, on this game, the data is stored in files on a disc. And I need the PlayStation console to interpret and play those files. But I have those files. They're in my possession. And since I purchased the game, I have every legal right to do as I wish with them. And those files can't be changed. They can't be altered. They're as they are on that disc when I purchased it. With a console going to digital-only games, that gives the manufacturer, the publisher, whomever has access to the back end of that game file, that gives them the opportunity to alter your game where and when they see fit. You don't own that. You're merely buying a license to view and operate those files, and they can revoke that license at any time. You're essentially paying full price for a game, but only being allowed to lease it until they say otherwise. That's not healthy consumerism. That's not healthy for society, and it's not healthy for the long-term success of a console. Whenever I bought this new, this probably cost me $30, $40, $50, somewhere in there. But under Sony's new policy, if they sold me that game today, they'd charge the same price. And let's be honest, they'd probably charge about $80. I wouldn't get a physical copy of the disc. And they would have free reign to change or revoke that game at any time whenever they saw fit. That's not ownership. And if you are going to follow that policy, you certainly have no right to charge full price for a game. The last PlayStation console I purchased was a PlayStation 3. With as busy as my life is, I just don't have time for a PS4 or a PS5. And I've got a backlog of games, not just on PlayStation, but GameCube, Dreamcast, 3DS, the Wii. Heck, I've got a backlog of games going back to the Super Nintendo. I have 30 plus years of games backlogged in my collection. I will probably die before I finish all of my games. What incentive do I have to buy any PlayStation console moving forward? Anything? Is there anything that's going to make me buy one? I certainly can't think of a reason. I don't know who is in charge of Sony's gaming division, who has final say on when a PlayStation gets developed, when it gets made, what gets released on it. Those are names of men and women that I'll never meet. But I'll tell you this, they're boneheads, because now, as if the PlayStation 5 wasn't already in dire straits with a small catalog of games, I've had no incentive to buy a PS5, that's for sure. Now that incentive has grown even smaller. Now there is no incentive for me to buy a PS5. What happens to the sales of their console? I can't imagine they grow. They're going to shrink. Now, to be fair, there's going to be people that say, oh, what's wrong with digital games? What's wrong with games that aren't real on a disc, that are files you download? And inherently, there's nothing wrong with that. In a high trust society. But we don't live in a high trust society, and we don't live in a high trust world. And I don't trust corporations to do the right thing for their customers, because they've shown time and time again that they don't care about their customers. They care about one thing. They care about the bottom line. And if that means they can sell you full price games without having to actually print the games on a disc and purchase the packaging and print the packaging and sell it to you at retail, which means loading it on a truck and on a ship and moving it around the world, they'll do it. I expect better of Sony. I've been a fan of Sony's products, not just consoles, but their home consumer electronics for a very long time. I stand by their Blu-ray players. I stand by their audio equipment. They make a good product that the average person can afford. But they've really screwed the pooch with their consoles as of late, and especially with the PS5. PS5 is already super expensive. It has a very small library of games. It looks horrendous. It's a giant tower of plastic. What are they doing? What is Sony doing with their gaming division? It almost looks like they're trying to implode their gaming console on purpose. And don't think corporations haven't purposefully botched their own products in the past to find ways to weasel money out of new sources, because it has happened. So think about that. If you are in the market for buying a game console, should you really include PS5 in that list? I'm not saying Xbox is perfect. Heck, Microsoft is just as bad on the consumer front. Nintendo's barely any better. But at least for now, I can buy a Nintendo game on a cartridge, and the game is on there, Now, the game probably will end up getting patched at some point, but the game is on the cartridge. Now, you have to be careful with the Switch 2. There are some games that are not on cartridge. You buy a game license key card, and then the game is downloaded. I don't mess with that. I'm not buying that. If I buy a game, I want the game on a disc. I want to have it in my hand. I want it to be tangible and real. I feel for you, Sony. You could have done better. I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed. Anyway, what are the ramblings of a middle-aged goat farmer to a multi-billion-dollar corporation? I don't matter. But when I feel this way, and other consumers feel this way, a lot of those I don't matters start to add up and matter. So don't give in to this. Don't continue to buy Sony products until they change. Punish them with your wallet. That's how you punish all corporations, because they don't understand anything else. Anyway, thank y'all for stopping by, and I'll talk to you again real soon.